What time is it? Oh, I think it's time to sound design. What is going on, Rocket Powered Sound Designers? Today, we're going to be making this sound. Super cool sound here, and I actually think this is one of the coolest sounds in Serum, in my personal opinion, just because it goes so hard. So, what do you guys say we go ahead and go straight into today's tutorial? Now, if you guys aren't already subscribed and you're watching this video, of course, you got to click that subscribe button if you're into daily Serum tutorials, because that's right, I'm uploading one Serum tutorial every single day for the rest of your life, just as long as you click that subscribe button. So, first things first, let's start off, no hesitation here. So to start ourselves off, we're going to be running frequency modulation, but not off the typical waveforms that we typically go with. So for an example, we can normally go ahead and use FM from like a sine waveform or maybe a square or a sawtooth waveform, but today we're going to be switching it up a little bit, and we're actually going to be running it off of something that has a little bit more information and a little bit more specificity to it. As you can see, this waveform right here has a lot going on, a lot of information stored in the wavetable itself, and that is super untypical because, you know, let's be honest here, we want something that's really smooth and it's going to run, or it's going to intercept the signal from oscillator B without any problem. But today, we're going to be switching it up a little bit, and it sounds awesome. So this is a nice little trick I like to do. I'm not going to show you right now, but anyways, let's just cycle through the wavetable position, see what it sounds like. Alright, I'm definitely going to want to get a little bit of movement on here. So let's stick on LFO1 onto the wavetable position. This is the particular waveform that I did in the OG sound. And now it's time to show you guys the nice little trick here. We go ahead and turn on FM from B, and I like doing this in a lot of my sounds to give them a nice harmonic bass. And what we end up doing is we go into the oscillator that we're intercepting the signal from, and we go ahead and go to the basic shapes and select number 2, which is a sawtooth waveform. Now, obviously, we have the level turned up from oscillator B all the way, so go ahead and drop that down to 0. Let's drop the octave up to 2. You can immediately hear that nice harmonic sound being displayed into the sound here. So what do you say we go ahead and modulate FM? And that's going to create some really interesting results. I'm also going to modulate the level to cut out the excess noise that's down at these levels below 50%. It sounds kind of gross. See how much cleaner that sounds? Perfect. Now, another thing to add in even more crazy pitch and tone differentials, we're going to turn up a little bit of sync here. So we're going to be modulating the sync, and what the nice thing about the sync is that it basically emulates an octave change, and it gives us complete control over the pitch that we're going to be changing. So each of these whole percentiles, like when we're at 3% on the dot, that is 3 octaves higher. As you can see, we have 3 copies of the waveform, or I shouldn't say 3 copies, 3 cycles inside of one single cycle at a single time, which is obviously going to bring the octave up positive 3. So we're going to go ahead and modulate this up. And that sounds pretty damn good to me. What do you guys say we go ahead and jump straight into the modulation, or onto the filter? I'm so silly. So into the filter, we're going to be using the PP filter. Haha, guys, I know, it's so funny. PP. So we're going to go ahead and turn up the resonance so we can actually see what's good. What's good in this filter? Okay. Interesting. Let's turn up the frequency. Oh, now we have 2 separate peaks in this little EQ. And we're going to modulate them in towards each other. And that creates like a quick little vocal sound. Turn up the drive a tad. And we're actually going to be leaving it just like that. Now, if I were to turn off the filter, if I were to turn it on, It's very subtle, and it may sound gross now, but once we start to throw in the effects, that's when the sound really just starts to come in together. Now, first effect on our list, we're going to be rocking some distortion. We got to distort these frequencies, right? But not that much. Let's just turn the mix to around 50%. That way, we have a little bit of the clean, dry sound, and it's colliding perfectly with the wet. Now, we got to clean up the sound a little bit, and what are we going to do with that? We use a filter. Let's take a listen to the sound without the filter. We need to shape it and give it a little bit more vowel movement. And a nice little trick that we can do is put on a high pass filter. This movement sounds pretty good, and by just turning up the resonance, we can almost make it sound like it's speaking to us, right? I'm gonna turn on the mix just a tad. All right, pretty nasty, right? But it's still nowhere where we want it to be. So now we're gonna throw on a compressor and turn on that multiband. Actually, you know what? Fudge that. We're gonna turn on a phaser after that instead, because why not? Drop the phaser's rate down to 0 so we have virtually no movement within the phaser itself just yet. And by dropping the depth down to 0 and the frequency down to around like 40 hertz, we have a lot more in the low end, and it's basically filling in a lot of the gaps that we are missing out on in this particular sound. And let's just see what happens when we modulate this. Same with the frequency. It creates like a nice vocal-ish kind of sound. We want a little bit less of that though. Same with the feedback. And that's going to leave us with a nice sound. Now guys, I like putting phasers on a lot of my sounds, especially growls, and the depth trick is pretty nice. We go ahead and leave the depth at 0%, and the frequency, we drop that to, what is the minimum, 20 hertz, and it comes out really nice. It almost sounds like the growl is processing through a guitar amp. So I highly recommend you guys try that out on your own growls. But finally, now we're going to go into our EQ. We are going to just drop this peak little here, go into the negatives, and we're just going to modulate the frequency and emulate, or well, not even emulate, we're literally creating a notch filter here. So this is what the notch filter is. Cuts out that mid-range frequency, and it just makes it sound a lot tighter. I don't know, I love the way that the notch filter sounds. It was back in the day when I used to use massive all the time, definitely throwing on double notches to most of my sounds. Okay, enough of that. Let's go ahead and turn on our compressor now, because now it's time to multi-band this bad boy up. All right. You know what? That's pretty good. We actually don't have to adjust any of the bands, because I think it sounds pretty solid like this. And finally, we could throw on a little bit of hyper dimension. Detune it a tad. And of course, add a little bit of size. And we're gonna call it a day. Now, this is a super cool sound. Also, guys, put on some voicing. Oh my gosh. I had to burp, so I couldn't talk for a bit. We're gonna turn on mono and legato and a little bit of portamento. And that's exactly how I made it sound. Now, if you guys like this video, make sure you guys throw me a like. If you disliked it, then drop a dislike on the video. And let me know what you guys think in the comments. Now, without further ado, my name is Shane from Rocky Parrot Sound. Haha, you guys thought I was going to take off the hat, but I didn't. And without further ado, I will catch you guys tomorrow in the next Serum tutorial.